Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see you on this beautiful morning, pre-Christmas morning. There's a Christmas energy in the air these days, I think, doing shopping and decorating and lights going up in the neighborhoods. It's always a joy to see. So thank you for being with us this morning. Thank you for tuning in online, those of you out there. I don't think we've got any newcomers in the house today, do we? No? Mostly just a hearty thank you to all of you for being here, for listening in, and for your ongoing donations and ties to the church that keep us humming along here. We are grateful. I would like to mention a few announcements up front, particularly for those tuning in online. We're doing a community food drive all through the winter, so if you have good quality packaged canned goods, things like that, fruits, soups, peanut butter, spaghetti sauce, things like that, we're collecting them all through the winter. I've got a box at the back, which looks like it's pretty full. We'll get a delivery going on that soon. We'll be taking them over regularly to people in need of Delaware County. I know they'll be much appreciated. I think the Unity Men's Dinner is this week, isn't it, Paul?
Yeah.
Wednesday, 6 at...
Local Roots.
Local Roots. That's a favorite lunch place for us in Powell. Kind of a farm-to-table restaurant. Good stuff there, Local Roots. So that's this Wednesday at 6 o'clock, the 14th. Paul Wessner is the coordinator for that. If you need details, just contact us through the church website. Contact us. Next Sunday is a guest speaker Sunday, and wise woman Shirley Williams will be here sharing an inspiring message with you. Her title is Bring the Light. And the wonderful music will be provided by Lizzie Miller and Michael Contras. Mm-hmm. And as most of you know, we'll be having our annual Christmas Eve candlelighting service and 7 o'clock on the 24th, but we'll not be having service on the 25th, so make a note of that. I think that's it. We're grateful to have Linda Joel with us to do our music this morning. Let's thank them for being here. And bless them, they're also going to be with us on Christmas Eve, so that will really add a lot to our service. Yeah. All right, well, as always, we begin with prayer. I know a number of people have been lighting a candle back there on the Joys and Concerns table. This is the time to bring into our minds and hearts all those people, situations, whatever we are lifting up in our thoughts. And Linda and Joel will lead us into prayer with a song by Marguerite and Warren Meyer called Breathe Through Me. Whatever challenges we are facing, we know God is with midst of them, bringing that steadying peace, that guiding wisdom, that radiant life, that peace that passes understanding. The joy of God fills our hearts as we feel that oneness, and as we release into God's care and keeping all the concerns of our lives. We know God is present in our very midst, doing a powerful healing work in all places, across the globe, among all living things. The healing presence of God is steadily at flow. We're grateful to know that truth this morning, to affirm it for ourselves, for each other, for living beings everywhere. God is with us in this very moment, in every moment, and all is well. And so it is. Amen. All right, Linda and Joel are going to do a song for us. I think it's a John Denver song, yes? Called Back Home Again.
There's a storm across the valley, clouds are rolling in. The afternoon is heavy on your shoulders. There's a truck out on the 4-lane, a mile or more away. The whining of his wheels just makes it colder. He's an hour away from riding all your prayers up in the sky. With 10 days on the road, barely gone. There's a fire softly burning, supper's on the stove. It's the light in your eyes that makes it home. Hey, it's good to be back home again. Sometimes this old farm feels like a long lost friend. Yes, hey, it's good to be back home again. There's all the news to tell him how you spend your time, and what's the latest news the neighbors say. And your mother called last Friday, sunshine made her cry. You felt the baby blue just yesterday. Hey, it's good to be back home again. Sometimes this old farm feels like a long lost friend. Yes, and hey, it's good to be back home again. Oh, the time when I can lay this tired old body down, feel your fingers feather soft upon me, kisses that I live for, the love that
lovely to hear that song again, and you guys did a beautiful job with it. Thank you so much. All right. Good time of year for a song like that somehow. We're spending a little more time inside. Feels cozy and warm. All right. Well, I was thinking, starting to get into Christmas season jokes. I was looking around. I thought these were kind of funny. I'm talking about joy today as kind of the theme, so we got to have something to kind of give us a laugh to get going here. So I might have used these before, but I thought they were kind of funny. We've started doing some Christmas carols. These are Christmas carols for the psychologically challenged. So for those with schizophrenia, the carol, "Do you hear what I hear?" For those with multiple personality disorder, "We three queens disoriented are." Or for those with amnesia, "I don't know if I'll be home for Christmas." Or for the narcissistic, "Hark the herald angels sing about me." Or the manic, "Deck the halls and the walls and the house and the lawn and the streets and the stores." Carol for the paranoid, "Santa Claus is coming to get me." Or for those with full personality disorder, "You better watch out. I'm going to cry, I'm going to pout, and I won't tell you why." For those with agoraphobia, or agoraphobia, I'm not too sure how to say that word. "I heard the bells on Christmas Day, but couldn't leave my house." For those with senile dementia, "Walking in a winter wonderland, miles from my house in my slippers and robe." I like that one. Or the last one, for those with attention deficit disorder, "We wish you, hey, look, it's snowing." I thought those were kind of cute. All right. Carols for everybody, Christmas carols. Well, I've been looking lately at what would be the best kind of intangible gifts of the season to give ourselves and then by extension one another, because whatever we kind of express or come into, we share with all those around us. So I've been thinking about those kinds of gifts, the gift of rest, the gift of being able to regulate our attention, things like that. And today, talking about the gift of joy, a rediscovery of joy. We can all use some of that, I think, in this season, on a deep level. Joy is something a little deeper than entertainment or amusement or happiness. It's something deeper than that. And it's really throughout the Christmas stories. It's an important theme this time of year. As we look at those Christmas stories, joy is at the heart of it because God is at the heart of it. Joy comes from source. So the Christmas stories, it's all about joy. It comes up everywhere. We all know the wise men's story, that these were wise men from the East, and they're, studying their astronomy charts or whatever they're looking at, and they see this star, this guiding star, and they follow it, and it leads them a long journey. They don't even know where they're going or what's the purpose of it, what they're going to find. But there are prophecies, there are legends, things, teachings that are guiding them, and they follow it until the star stops over a house in Bethlehem where a very special holy child lays. And that's where the star had stopped, and Scripture says they were filled with overwhelming joy. They were overwhelmed with joy. Wonderful. And then the guidance continued for them as they were guided to leave and to go home by another road, it says, keeping them safe. That guidance was with them. And they went home overwhelmed with joy. The shepherd's story that's in those accounts, also full of joy, says they're out in the fields by night watching their flocks. And a heavenly choir of angels sings to them, brings them good news of great joy about this holy child being born. It's an amazing thing. There's kind of a juxtaposition of these are not pleasant times in this era, in this time, in this place. There's all kinds of oppression and violence and confusion and chaos and poverty, and yet joy, overwhelming joy. It kind of drives home that point that joy doesn't have to do with circumstances, getting everything right and then you can be joyful. No, joy dominates over whatever the circumstances are. It comes from a deeper place. Lots of spiritual teachings, and I think all over the place, all kinds of traditions and all kinds of literature. There's an emphasis on joy. Jesus in all his teachings, he said, he told his disciples, I've shared these teachings with you, I've said these things so that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be complete. All his teachings about God and how to live in oneness with God, he says they were all about joy, that your joy can be complete. Psalm 16, the psalmist said the same thing about God. In God's presence, there is fullness of joy. I took that as my title. And fullness of joy, what is that? What does that look like? What does that feel like? Dante, the Divine Comedy, talked about the joy that spins the universe. The Creator is all about joy, keeps the universe spinning. Emily Cady, one of our favorite Unity writers, Lessons in Truth, talked about God in us as a wellspring of joy. A wellspring of joy. So it's all about joy. And yet I think we would all agree I could stand some more of that in my daily life. Show of hands? I think we could all would like to experience more of that joy on a regular basis. So I think it's a good time to reflect on how to give that to ourselves, what a precious gift that is, or to give it to one another, what's involved in it. And again in the spiritual teachings, it seems to come out that it's about an experience of God, because joy comes from source. It comes from within, not from outer circumstances. That's what's at the root of the wise men's overwhelming joy and the shepherds. It's about an experience of God they had, God's guidance, the prophecies, the guidance all being true, and they have an experience in which they realize God is real. It's all true. God is real and at work in my midst. I think that is always the source of joy. In all these gospel accounts, that's what it is, that this discovery that God is alive and at work in our midst, and that brings this joy. It doesn't change all the circumstances, but it changes our situation in the midst of them. All of a sudden, there are so many more possibilities. Everything seems more manageable, and there's reason for tremendous hope. God is alive and at work in our midst. God is real. I think that's what those stories are all about. An experience of God, and when we have that, we tap into that joy. And that joy has a lot of energy in it to help guide us forward in our lives. And I think it's important to realize, as we're pondering these Christmas stories, this isn't just an ancient thing from thousands of years ago. This isn't just a unique experience experienced by a couple people long ago. This is our experience, all of us, in our lives. This is everyday experience. We've all had an experience of God where we realized there really is a power and presence at work in my life. I'm feeling it. I'm aware of that guidance. God is with me. It's real. And that's when we get a taste of that overwhelming joy that we're reading about in the scriptures. Anytime we discover anew, just as the wise men or the shepherds did, that God is really alive and at work in our midst, we tap into that joy. And it changes everything for us. It changes everything. I was thinking of examples of that down through my life. People I've met who've shared experiences like that, where they tapped into that joy, and it was life-changing for them. It changed their experience of life in a significant way, and they felt some of that overwhelming joy. I was remembering a trip to Sedona we took years and years ago. We had a tour guide. They could do these Jeep tours around Sedona. Any of you been to Sedona? Pink Jeeps. They're all pink Jeeps, that's right. And they bounce you around the mountains like crazy. And we took one that was especially focused on vortexes. Remember, Joe? Because Sedona is noted for this in their landscape, and it's very but it's thought that there's a very special place there with special energy, and there were certain places in the landscape that you would feel that energy strongly. That was the idea of it anyway. So we took a vortex Jeep tour with a young man named Jim from Cleveland.
Is he a Reiki master?
Who had come out there, and he said, he just experienced of those red rock canyons and mountains. He said, back in Cleveland, I used to have kind of one of those moments where you just feel like everything is wonderful and there's some kind of wonderful universal energy around you. Transcendent moments, he called them. That might happen maybe once a year in Cleveland. I came out here and it's like all the time. All the time. The light on the red rock, the color, the energy of the place. So he had this guidance that brought him there, and then this guidance that told him this is home. This is where you need to be. And he began to feel this tremendous energy around him. You know, God was real. God became real in a new way. His guidance came to him and led him forward in life to greater happiness and joy. He sensed that overwhelming joy. And he became very interested in energy healing himself, and that Sedona community and land fed that, nourished that in him. God can come to us that way, and that can be a sense of overwhelming joy when that guidance comes and it's right on for us. Haven't we all had that experience? Somebody says something, you stumble upon a book, you meet somebody, you get a picture of something. It's amazing the many ways God can find to reach us that kind of lead us in the path of our life and how it's meant to move forward from here. And that'll give you that sense of joy. I am not alone on this walk. There's a power and presence with me. My sister shared a wonderful story with me years ago. Still recovering in many ways from a complicated divorce. They're all pretty complicated, I think, but it was a complicated divorce. And she had wanted to move out to be in California, to be near her children, her adult children out there. So she had done that, and she was staying with her son, and all her belongings were in storage, and funds were dwindling. She was looking for employment, finances were precarious. It was a difficult time, a confusing time. And she shared with me a story of a kind of a turnaround moment. She was visiting her stuff. You know how you have to go to storage facilities and visit your stuff once in a while when it's all in storage. So she was in there, and she's walking down these long hallways of this large storage facility, and there's music playing, and she's, in a fairly depressive state, but as she's walking along, she started realizing she was singing along with an old song. Put your hand in the hand of a man and still the water. Remember that one? I think it's a maybe early 70s tune, I'm not sure. So it was a song coming to her and encouraging her to sing along with it, a song about guidance. Let God guide you. Let God guide you. You're going to be okay. Put your hand in God's hand, and let yourself be guided forward. You're going to make it. And of course she did. And she did find a job at a Unity Church out there, and she bought a home, and it was a turnaround point in that process. Isn't it amazing the way that power and presence can reach us and find us and help us up and lead us forward in the darkest of times? I was thinking also of a hospice patient I visited for a while, a few months near the end of her life, a wonderful woman named Vera, which comes from Latin, it means truth. Isn't that a lovely name? Vera. She lived in German Village. She was lung cancer the last few months of her life, and I visited once a week. For a while I gave her a ride to places, to the store, things like that, or just sat with her. And when I arrived one week, she told me a story. The prior week, she'd come back from a doctor appointment. It was very clear to her she was going to be going soon. Things had advanced, and she was going to be going soon, and she was alone in her townhouse, condo or whatever, and she sat down on the couch and felt so afraid. It was like death had really become real that day, and she knew she was going to be going soon. And she even said aloud, she told me, "I am so afraid." And all of a sudden she felt a hand on her shoulder. And it was so real, she turned. I thought maybe somebody had come in and she didn't realize, but no, she was alone in her house and she felt a hand on her shoulder. Ooh, there's a moment. God is real. There's a power and presence alive and at work in our lives. And she felt it in that moment. And it changed. It changed things for her. It changed her awareness. It made her feel that she had a power and presence within and around her, that she was going to be okay. She was going to be guided through to the other side. It doesn't change all these little circumstances, but it changes us in the midst of it so that we know we're not alone. We are plugged into Source, and it can bring a great sense of joy and relief that comes from a deep place, inside. I think we've all had moments like this in our lives, and often they come in dark times. Would you agree? Just like in the gospel accounts, it's often they come in dark times. Just like they did in the gospel accounts, those dark and desperate times with lots of poverty and chaos and oppression under the Roman Empire and so on. They come at dark times in our lives. And why do you think that is? See, I think it's because we tend to be more open. We tend to have kind of set aside the idea, I can do it all, I can fix it, I know what I'm doing. And we're a little more open, and we're ready to receive. You know, our hearts and minds are open, and we're looking for guidance. And that's a powerful place to be in, actually, strangely, that place of surrender and openness. I think that's why Jesus taught so strongly that, that teaching about, ask, seek, knock and the door will be opened, seek and you'll find. Be in that open place, receptive. God responds to an open heart and mind, to a receptive heart and mind. So how do we experience more of that joy? Given those truths about joy and how it comes from source, how do we experience more of it if we would like to? And I think, a lot of it, what a precious gift that would be to give ourselves and each other to come into a deeper awareness of that joy in us. I think a lot of it has to do with, first of all, with having some kind of a practice, a spiritual practice, to practice the presence in some way. That's a phrase from Joel Goldsmith. He's got a book by that title. Any of you ever read any Joel Goldsmith? Practice the presence. And it just means have a regular prayer and meditation practice. And you work out what suits you in your life and according to your schedule and your lifestyle. What can you do regularly that gives you space and time to commune with God? To put your hand in the hand, of the presence, to rest in. It could be just sitting in silence for a few moments in the morning. It could be having a kind of a breath meditation for 5 or 10 minutes in the morning, or any time in the day that it works for you. Some kind of a regular time and place where you are you're kind of making room at the inn. You're opening yourself up to the divine presence. You are open. You are ready to receive. You're not pushing your agenda. You're not planning your day. You're not ticking items off your to-do list. You're just spending a few moments breathing and being open to God and receptive to God. That's the start, I think, because joy comes from source. So the more time, if we have time every day to connect with source, that presence in us, that power in us, we are likely to feel that influence, that guiding influence that will lead us toward greater joy. We'll rediscover it very naturally because God in us is joy. It is joy. And then we let that practice move outward into our life. God will guide us in that, what's ours to do day by day. Following that divine impulse, those divine qualities from within are going to want to come out through us. And as we do that outer practice then, we come into more and more joy, because as we kind of enact or channel the divine in our daily lives, it puts us in the flow of God's grace. I've been reading a book called Book of Joy. It's based on interviews and conversations between the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu. And I think Archbishop Tutu passed about a year ago. Was that anyone else's recollection? This was like just before that. They were kind of aware, and they were good friends, the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Tutu, and they knew they didn't have forever to get together and do this thing they wanted to do, which was to talk about joy. They were very joyful individuals, both of them. The Dalai Lama still is very much lots of laughter, lots of humor, lots of teasing one another. And they wanted to get together and create from their discussions this book about joy, how to experience more joy. And of course, they're both individuals who went through stormy times in their lives and in their cultures, and they knew a good deal about suffering, but they also knew a lot about joy and where it comes from. So this is the outer practice. We do the inner practice, and then we see how it comes outward into our lives. They talked about the 8 pillars of joy. I just thought I'd share those with you this morning. I find them. They're kind of repeat lessons of things we talk about often in churches, the 8 pillars of joy. But they recommend cultivate these, and you will find yourself filled with joy, more and more and more. So these will sound familiar, the 8 pillars of joy. First one is perspective. Choose your perspective on your life. Ultimate human freedom, Viktor Frankl said, is to choose your perspective on what you're dealing with in your life. We have that freedom always. How are we going to see it? Work with that perspective. Second one is humility. Acknowledging our limitations, we can't figure everything out, we're not in charge of the universe, we don't call all the shots, we don't control everything, we can let that all go and affirm the truth that becoming more humble, we need guidance and direction in our lives, we need help, we all do at some point, so we're open and we're ready to receive. Humility is a powerful place of receptivity to be in. Third one is humor, laughing at ourselves, particularly at ourselves, laughing at life, not taking everything so seriously, especially not taking ourselves so seriously. And we do that a lot. We forget. It's one of my favorite meditation teachers, Sogyam Rinpoche, a little book on meditation. He says we should meditate with humor and expansiveness. I like that idea. So instead of getting all uptight, oh, I'm not meditating well, I can't concentrate on my breath, or whatever it is we do, he says, we let it all go, we chuckle at ourselves, and then we resume breathing and doing our practice with humor, expansiveness, not taking ourselves so seriously. Humor. Fourth one, acceptance, by which they mean a kind of non-resistance to what is. We dig our heels in a lot in life, resisting what is. These circumstances should not be what they are. I'm angry about it. I won't have it. This acceptance, it's kind of about the serenity prayer kind of acceptance. Accepting the things we cannot change. They are. So we won't dig our heels in an embittered or resentful or resisting way. We'll accept. We'll accept this is what is, and then we choose our perspective on that. And all of these things kind of work together. Fifth one is forgiveness. We talked about this one just recently. Learning how to let things go is a tremendously important gift to give ourselves. Let things go, things that we wish we hadn't done, our regrets, our mistakes. Letting things go, the mistakes or things others have done in our lives. We let them go, we free ourselves. That's a pathway to greater joy. Gratitude, regular daily gratitude practice. The Dalai Lama recommends to everybody a gratitude journal. He says, try every day to name 3, maybe before bed, 3 things you're grateful for every day, and try to vary them, try to come up with new ones. He said it's a great thing to do with your spouse or partner or someone in your family. Share them with one another. 3 things every day you're grateful for, and then write them down in your journal. He says, keep trying to vary them and add to them, make them new. He said, variation is the key to effective gratitude practice. It'll make you more joyful. How many of you had an experience of that? The more grateful we are, the more joyful we are. They go hand in hand. There's no doubt about it. 7th one, compassion. Dalai Lama says cultivating compassion for others for even 10 minutes a day can lead to 24 hours of joy. There is a remarkable way in which, whenever we kind of get out of ourselves and extend our hearts and our concerns to others, we're thinking about the well-being of others, it makes our own burdens lighter somehow. Have any of you had that experience? Or when you're going through a challenge and you start realizing so many of us are dealing with this right now. It is not just me. There's so many of us getting older, so many of us dealing with some physical infirmities. It lightens our burden a little bit, and it deepens our awareness of others with compassionate hearts. That brings greater joy, a greater feeling of connection with others. And the 8th one, generosity. Generosity. It is in giving that we receive. It's a long-standing Christian teaching. We don't often realize how absolutely definitively true that is. There's all kinds of studies going on about this kind of thing now, that people who volunteer live longer. People who give have better health. People have regular ways of giving of their time or service, or give generously to organizations or charities. There's all kinds of proof to show now that it really does improve people's state of mind, their mental health as well as their physical health. There's a study in McClelland and Kirschness, a study that Tutu recommended. He said that even in science, there's a study that suggests just thinking about generosity, planning in your mind something you're going to do for someone or a gift you want to give, just thinking about generosity significantly bolsters the immune system. It's kind of remarkable. Things that have been in our spiritual teachings and our religious teachings for centuries after centuries, we're beginning to kind of document them in science and in psychology. People who volunteer live longer, stay healthier. I like this. The Archbishop Tutu joked about this remarkable power of giving, how we receive more. He said he likes to joke that God doesn't know very much about math, because when you give to others, it should be something that subtracts from yourself, but in fact it adds. It creates space for more and more blessings to come to you. So God doesn't do very good math. I like that. That was kind of a funny Tutu joke. So he said generosity is the best way of becoming more and more joyful. And I think that's something we've all experienced. I think all of these pillars of joy, these 8 pillars of joy, perspective, humility, humor, acceptance, forgiveness, gratitude, generosity, we've all worked with these things, we've all channeled these divine qualities, we've all been blessed by them. But perhaps haven't really realized how deeply they can bless us, how they can lead us in that path of discovering anew that wellspring of joy that's in us, that can be overwhelming at times, how God finds ways to reach us and bless us regardless of our circumstances or challenges or situations. There are ways God's presence and power will reach us and lift us up. The truth the wise men discovered, that God is real, we're still discovering that and have opportunities to discover it every day. And from that direction, joy comes. Amen?
Amen.
Amen. Let's take that into a closing prayer if we could. Affirming our awareness of God's presence with us right here and now in every moment of our lives. And so joy is close at hand at all times, in all circumstances, as we are receptive, as we listen and feel inwardly for that grace of God that dwells in us, for the energy that flows from that wellspring of wisdom and joy and peace within us. We are wide open to receive it and to channel it outward as we live with grace, with generosity, with gratitude, allowing God to lead us in the path of life and to feel that joy rising up in us evermore each day. Thank you, God, for your unfailing presence in our midst, now and always. Amen.
Amen.
All right, we've got another song by Linda Joel. It's a fun one by the Carter family called Keep on the Sunny Side.
you.